Austin,
Yes.
I told you and told the people that I was going to finish that Helldrake this week, and I was going to do it last night. I had a band practice and I played golf, and my whole day was taken up. And then I got home, and we had no running water at the house. Some sort
Oh,
of
wow.
main had broke at the end of the road, flooding the street. And so there I was, unable to clean my airbrush, fill up my water cup, or anything of that sort. And I thought, this is a very strange way to stop what feels like a very low tech kind of hobbying thing. You know what I mean? We do so
Yeah.
much with our technology that it feels like the only thing that can stop you is the internet and the power going out. And then all of a sudden, all I want to do is dip my brushes in this pigmented liquid and then get said pigmented liquid off the brushes. And it's like, oh, wait, no, now you need running water. So
Yeah.
that caught your boy out. So guess what I have to do this week?
What do you got to do?
I got to work on the Helldrake.
Oh, man.
I'm tired of that thing, man. I'm ready for it to be done. I feel like my whole entire hobby existence, which I don't know why I'm doing the bits box right off the rip. This is the bits box. Open it up.
Er?
The bits box is part of the show where we talk about what we've done in the hobby this week. All right? I'm Shane. That's Austin. You're listening to 40K Fanatics. It's a podcast. You know what you clicked on. Yada, yada. Today we're talking about Blood Bowl. Anyway, back to the bits box, which is now in the wrong part of the show.
I think we're now the 40K Frantics.
Yes, very frantic. You got a bunch of fish in today. That's a part of the bits box, right?
Yeah.
And not eating fish.
No, well, I say fish as a shorthand. What I mean by I got a shipment of fish in, I got a shipment of crabs and snails in.
Various sea creatures, we could call them.
Yeah, I've got the whole, like, Davy Jones crew going on.
Yeah, so it's funny how your hobbying can be derailed, right? And I think I might have said it last week, how your hobby should be fun, because otherwise it's not so much your hobby, it's a little bit your job. A little bit like this podcast, honestly, because sometimes we aren't really feeling it. Full disclosure, folks. It's impossible to do it every single week and every single week be as excited as possible to come and talk about whatever, right? But we've decided this is not so much hobby, this is a bit of a job. But the hobby stuff, I want it to feel like work at all. And sometimes it do. And then sometimes it gets derailed by little silly stuff, such as having a project that you're not having a lot of fun with has sort of put everything else on hold. Does that make sense? It's like, I don't want to get
Yeah.
into my pile of shame and start something else, because I know if I go and start working on some old world cavalry, or if I go, I want five more Chaos Terminators. If I go and do those, I will never, ever come back to this godforsaken Helldrake. Now, you've been working on some stuff. You've been working on your old world dwarves. You sent me a lovely picture. Did you remember to post it in the Bitsbox channel of the Discord?
Not yet. I was waiting for them to get on to another stage of development before I posted that.
Very good.
They're kind of like party in the back kind of right now. The trim is most evident in the back, while the front's still lacking some stuff.
I see. The Bitsbox part of the Discord is open to everybody, and it's totally free to join. In fact, I'm scrolling over there. Last week we asked just before record time for people to post some stuff that they were working on that we might talk about, and we got a couple. Frequent contributor Jason Trump posted his Halloween painting competition submission, which is a demon prince of sort of ambiguous, what should I say? Fealty, let's call it. And it's also a headless horseman take. And it's got a little diorama that the base sits down into, and it's really cool. You can see it over on the Bitsbox channel of our Discord, our 40K Fanatics Discord, linked below. Austin, what's it cost to join this Discord, to participate in this discourse?
Absolutely nothing.
It's free 99. We also got a neat shot of some kit bashed Marines, where the homie Gene Steeler, there in the bits box has given every single one of them sneaky cloaks and beaky helmets, and they look really nice. But that's all
Hmm.
I've got for the bits box this week.
Yeah, I think that's it.
Close it.
Boom.
And now we will go to the Vox channel. Typically it's at the beginning of the show, but I've messed up the format. Now, the Vox channel is a part of the show where we read your comments, whether we agree with you or not. You can comment down below on this YouTube, or if you're listening on Spotify, you can comment on the Spotify. You can comment in everywhere, wherever you want to. These comments first are going to come from a couple weeks ago when we talked about how 40Ks killed Guard. Now, they haven't really killed Guard. Guard's fine, as a few people said, but we got quite a bit of response, and so we're going to read a couple of these. This one is from Cromwell Basic. He says, the scale increase is probably the biggest problem for Guard. In a 2K game, you will likely be unable to hide all of your units during deployments. Our super heavies don't even fit on most terrain layouts or are locked into a corner. Most our artillery is fairly lackluster as well, which is a shame, being the artillery faction. That artillery thing was crazy because when Guard came out in the index, it was like oops all artillery guns because
Yeah.
you could slow the whole enemy and then blast them to pieces with the various artillery pieces. And was such a strange that was such a strange meta because Guard on index was rewarded for not doing anything, not moving, just standing there shooting. And then
Yeah.
the artillery spam made it even worse because it's like, okay, now I'm just going to deploy these 3, 4 artillery pieces at the very, very back, and they are not going to move. They don't even need to see anything. That was the other part. It was the line of sight. I think they
Well,
got +1 to hit,
here's
but then they had to negate the -1 to hit. But then you could give them some orders, and so it'd be like didn't they hit on 2s and 3s with with no line of sight.
here's the thing. The thing with it is that
Indirect. That's what they
Guard
call it.
Index was put in a bad position because they were put in to a whole army of do not move, play the game by do not moving. And so the obvious solution is, well, if my whole army only gets its bonuses if it doesn't move, then obviously just fill it up with things that will benefit from that rule. It's not a thing of Guard players like evilly conniving and laughing as they're deploying these artillery. It's like, no, that's literally what we have to do to survive this list.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
and the
yeah,
indirect was silly because there were other units in the early days of indirect that could get, they could be hitting on 2s and 3s without actually exposing themselves to anything, and that was silly.
yeah,
But
but Guard,
subsequently they made it so you could never hit better than a 4 on indirect, and that pretty
yeah,
well shut that down, and
but
took the guard artillery with it.
well, it took a while to get that way because for a while it was they kept nerfing indirect fire, which then continued to nerf guard, which was already in a nerfed position.
Right?
So it just kept dragging guard down in an indirect manner through the whole thing, and it wasn't good.
Was that a pun you worked in there?
Not really.
Well, I caught it. You should have. You got to own the jokes, Austin. When they happen, there may be somebody listening that went an indirect manner. You got to spike the football on those. You submitted this comment for our comment. This one comes again off of YouTube. Same one. The Kaiser K. He says, yeah, the thing that annoys me the most is that combined arms thing. It's absurd that you can't have a generic guardsman unit. You basically cannot play anything other than Cadia, Krieg, or Catachan, and if you don't play them all at once, you miss out on some abilities. I don't want to play Cadia, and if I don't, I miss out on sticky objectives. The whole idea of GW forcing you to play combined arms is why I won't consider collecting Guard. Even though I find them interesting lore-wise, there just isn't much room for expression in this army in current edition. I think I commented on that, and I said, um, yeah, it's like, how did you all get here? You you Kriegsmen, you Catachan jungle fighters. Why are you all here today? It's it's a little bit of your gripe with Primarchs. It's like, why is Gilliman here stamping down a random, no named character's Gene Stealer cult army on a Tuesday?
I don't get that. What do you mean?
What do you, well, it feels like the combined arms of the Guard, where the Kriegsmen and the Catachan and the Katie all show up on the same day. That feel
Okay, yeah.
that feels like the Avengers assembling, right?
Okay, I thought you meant why are any of these regiments here? But you're talking about combined. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
like
like on the same day, on the same battlefield. Like, you guys are supposed to be in the jungle, and you're supposed to be over on Krieg or somewhere near it, and yet we've all formed like Voltron to stamp down a random Chaos Lord.
it's the kid who's got like so many different Lego sets that when he plays together with the Lego sets, just like you got Star Wars and City Police, and you got all that just mixed together. You got your Aquanauts and everything.
Yeah, the Lord of the Rings guys are fighting the Star Wars guys because we have them here.
Yeah, that's what Guard feels like at the moment.
Yeah, you had further comments on that, or did I just sort of encapsulate the idea you had?
I mean, you kind of built upon it. I think the main thing I was going away with it was that comment is kind of a distillation of what that podcast was about how it just doesn't feel like Guard anymore.
Yeah, and there were some people talking about how well the Guard periodically do really well at various tournaments, and it's like, well, man, we know that, but that's not what we're talking about. If you've listened to 40K Fanatics for very long, uh, that is our least that to me is the least interesting part of the hobby. Is what's
Yeah.
good and who's winning. Like, man, if you think that's cool, you should try sports. They let you gamble on it. Which, by the way, I've been percolating the idea of a gambling uh, discussion because, buddy, it's coming.
I
the
would like that.
the DraftKings and the FanDuel are not going to stop until you can bet on coin flips and weather. Okay, there will be a day where you can get on your DraftKings and say, I'm gonna say on this sunny morning that it's gonna rain by 4 o'clock, and they'll give you like plus 120 odds, and all you goons can go broke.
Uh huh.
The funny part of that, just on the particular of DraftKings gambling and gambling lines, they would figure out how to predict the weather.
Hmm.
Like all the meteorologists in the world and all that, they never had this billions and billions of dollars of resources to throw at the thing. The line setters would figure it out. So I guess that's to say it's not all bad.
I think it'd just be crazy. Like I have my own views on gambling and the whole situation, so I would definitely enjoy talking about that.
Oh, it's got a lot of bad. It's got a lot of bad coming rapidly down the pike, man. Um, let's see here. We've got a couple of comments over on our most recent pod where we gave our top 3 friendly local game store features that we'd like to have. And you guys can go down in the comments on the YouTube and read them. Dark Knight Kuron, who is new to me, and Dark Knight. We love we love your input. We love you being here. We're happy to have you. But he gives a little bit of a lot of problems with no solutions. So he says, I think I can agree on free play space, but the issues I ran into were thus. So he worked at a game store, I learned from reading his other comments. One, folks will eventually see it as a free hangout space rather than actually playing games. The store I used to work at, we saw more laptops than armies. Additionally, you'll see folks using bootleg PDFs and 3D printed models rather than using anything you sell at the store. We had several regulars that always used the gaming space, but spent literally nothing in the store. 2. Behavior. Even with a hygiene requirement, you'll have folks talking dirty and swearing, and it makes the store look bad. And when you try to regulate that behavior, the folks in the play space get frustrated or irate. I mean, look, I don't know. There's different people in this world, right?
Yeah.
but I'm not afraid to just throw some MFers out. Like, hey, buddy, like we're not an internet cafe. If you're not playing some, like, get your laptop out of here. You know,
Hmm.
hey, you guys saying all your dirty words. Cut that shit out or go. 3D print guy who is like constantly evangelizing about how everything in the store is too expensive but I got a way that you can have everything for free. Buddy, you got to cut that out or go. And then he won't have anywhere to play. So he's probably going to cut it out. Um, we could make list after list about the difficulties, the stuff that's wrong with friendly local game stores, and that's largely a business discussion because anytime you're not selling food or gasoline or electricity or lumber, right? You're asking for trouble. Businesses are difficult to run, especially when you're talking about um, uh, discretionary spending type businesses, right? So just, basically entertainment, stuff that people don't need. It's always going to be a tough row to hoe, and
Yeah.
that's why the owners of these shops end up having to live there. Like your your employees who are interested in the hobby and things, they're fine and they can be great and they can be people that you can trust as a business owner, but at the end of the day, they got no skin in the game. They don't ultimately have to care if some of the customers, the patrons, the guests, if you will, are causing a negative experience overall. So that kind of brand protection ends up falling on the owner. And it's like, well, it's on your head if you alienate the whole community. It's like, well, yeah, it's the whole thing's on my head. You that's why the owner owes all this money. You see? So they end up ultimately having to make the decisions of what flies and what doesn't fly.
Yeah.
Um, and also, if nobody is making those decisions, if nobody is, setting those boundaries and enforcing them, then I think you end up with like it becomes a situation where, okay, well, we didn't piss anybody off today. Well, yeah, you didn't, but the sort of bad apples of the bunch have scored points against you versus the community versus the new players, etc. So, ultimately you're better to just, you know, go make the thing how you want it to be.
Yeah. At the end of the day, you're running a business. You have to think about that.
Yeah, the thing's got to work for the bottom line somehow. Like, and sometimes it doesn't. That's the other part. Sometimes you can't get it to work and you go broke and you have file bankruptcy on that LLC and pay some money and try again. That's just the way that it is. I do want to say one more thing. This is a comment taken from Spotify, also on the top 3 friendly local game store features. Dave and Company says, frequent contributor by the way, my closest friendly local game store is a bit dirty and blah. It's kind of brown and uninviting. Some of it is nice and neat, some of it is not. The lights are not that bright and the carpet is dirty. The staff range from great to curmudgeonly to annoyed. Merch is not discounted. Always a good crowd of Magic and Warhammer players, though. I wish they'd clean it, put on a fresh coat of paint, better lights. He says parenthetically, don't need a bar though, Shane. Well, no, it doesn't sound like those guys would be able to keep much of a much of a clean food and drinks area. And that's a funny thing too, right? We talked about it a bit on that pod, how a lot of people open a bar or a game store. They're very similar in that way because they themselves want to have a bar or a game store. And
Yeah.
then like right after that, those people find, oh shoot, I've opened a business. And now I must business or else, right?
Hmm.
Such as making sure the whole place stays clean and tidy. And not everybody does, and you end up with You end up with places, and you see them not just in game stores, you see them in everything, right? Where you go into a spot and it's like, okay, nobody cares anymore. And that can be a shame. And it's especially a shame for a friendly local game store because in a town there tends to be one, maybe two, and that's all the market can possibly support. It can hardly support one, right? And so there's not any competition really driving the thing to be better, and so it just sort of um, succumbs to the entropy of its use, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know if you're a friendly local game store owner listening to this, I hope that you um, take a look at your spot upon hearing this, because sometimes you just need to be reminded and say, wait, have I let this thing become threadbare? But that's the Vox channel where we read your comments, and we'll read them whether we agree or not. Some people called us some names in the guard one, which oh shoot, I meant to read a couple of those. Stand by, everyone, as I pull up our new biggest fan. This guy is amazing. I really appreciated this guy, and I mean that because a lot of times haters will just hate when they see the title, right? And they'll type whatever they want, and that's fine. That's totally their prerogative. Um, but this guy gave timestamps all the way through, and I'm trying to find the one that I liked a lot. Da, 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 da. Yep, searching for the
Stand
thing.
by.
Golly, he posted so many. Here we go. He says at time marker 42 minutes. Quote, tanks don't have this problem, they tend to just tank, end quote. That is incorrect. Tanks are actually more hamstrung by access to orders than infantry units are. Quote, they also tend to look the same no matter what regiment you've got, end quote. From a lore perspective, this is also wildly incorrect, and from a rules perspective, it doesn't really matter because they don't have any regimental rules. He then breaks for a paragraph and he says, it's wild how you guys say something profoundly ignorant every 4 minutes like clockwork. To which I said, we're consistent, if nothing else. That comes from James Loader, 8652, and he made 4 or 5 comments and responded to other people's criticism, even of his comments. He was like a he was like a guest. He was a guest podcaster. And James Loader, we're happy to have you. I
I want
hope
to push back on one of his things.
Go ahead. Do you have it pulled up that you can read for the folks?
I don't know if I can read it, but I can tell you exactly about what it said.
Okay.
Uh, he at one point mentioned that in 8th edition, Vostroyans and the other regiments were supported,
Right.
and they were not. Not in the manner we were talking about. We were talking about like having a range support and everything.
Yeah,
Uh,
you couldn't really buy them.
yeah, you could play them as like I have some pebbles that are called Vostroyans. I could play the pebbles, but going out and actually buying Vostroyan miniatures wasn't a thing at that point.
Yeah, I think at sometimes you have that dude, right? And I think that guy is probably that dude, which is fine. Because listen, there is no better place on the internet to be well actually guy than the comments of a podcast. Because we've got to run this thing together, statement after statement, for 45 uninterrupted minutes. You got all day to reference us, correct us, and type about it. And I encourage you to, because we're going to get stuff wrong, because we like to have fun with our plastic mins. And ultimately, do you come to us for good information? Maybe. But I think really more than anything, we're the friendly local game store discussion place. During that time when you're not actually playing games and you're standing around and enjoying the free play space for free, there's a lot of good community that happens. And also, I think that in those cases, like, look, if you're sitting there playing Dota on your laptop, you got to go. But if everybody's standing around talking about the miniature hobby, that's probably a healthy sign. Let's get into our main topic today. Speaking of healthy signs, boy, we're talking about Blood Bowl Season 3. Uh,
Yep.
mile marker 25 minutes when we get into the main topic. If you guys don't care anything about hearing us chat aimlessly, just go down to the timestamps and skip ahead. We don't care. But we hope that you like the rest of this nonsense. So we're going to talk a little bit about the new Blood Bowl. It just came out. GW didn't send me a starter set. Did you get sent a starter set, Austin?
Oh, let me check. Well, no.
You know what? I feel like we've had a couple of pods in a row hit for multiple thousand views, right? We got to be getting close, especially on some of these ancillary games. Like, come on, GW, help your boy out. Um, but I am tempted to get it. The new box set because it looks great, man. The Tomb Kings look
It
great.
does.
The Bretonnians look amazing. And in this pod today, because it's new, and we'll have it titled, New Blood Bowl, should you start, things like that. What's changed, yada yada. We're going to talk a little bit about what's changed, but I really just want to sort of sing the praises of Blood Bowl to get more people into it. And if you've been away from it for a long time, maybe you forgot what it was like. And so we're going to talk about it because we both really enjoy Blood Bowl, I think. I know I do.
Yeah, it's a fun game. It's a
It,
fun game. It's a nice kind of. It's very much a kind of board game kind of game. It's kind of like a hybrid of the usual GW games with a board game, in that kind of movement is very regimented.
yeah, because it's a game that is um, it's a game that is simulating a sport, and so you wouldn't want to Blood Bowl with a ruler would be really, really um, anal, wouldn't it? Like
Hmm.
it would wear you out. You moved him too far. He slid, and yada yada. You don't do that in Blood Bowl. You just move by squares, and every guy's got so many squares that he can move. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we're done. Um, it's so stupid, though.
Yeah,
Blood Bowl is so friggin' stupid.
in a
What
good
does
way.
what does that mean, Austin? I want you. We haven't prepared any of this. We have no notes for today's pod, by the way, folks. Uh, when I say Blood Bowl is so stupid, tell the people what I mean. What does that mean to you?
Okay, it's the bottom of the quarter. Uh, Last turn, you are running your quarterback up the field. He has dodged everyone in his way. He's about to score a touchdown. He is one space away from getting the touchdown. You roll the dice to make him go the way. He is going the way. You rolled a 1. He falls on his face, drops the ball. Game over. You lost.
Yes. Or maybe it's the middle of the half. Same situation. Your guy, your special, very agile elf, he gets to re-roll all the times where he ducks out of the way of a potential tackler, right? All you got to do is not roll a 1, and you're going through. Oh shoot, I rolled a 1, no big deal. I'll use my re-roll. Okay, I didn't roll a 1. Everything's fine. I'm moving along. Now all I have to do is push it one time, and I'll be in the end zone. 1, re-roll. 1. Okay, he's fallen down. That's bad. But at least everything's fine. I haven't lost the ball. The ball's still up here. Oh no, no, no. The ball's going to bounce around randomly. Get the scatter template. Oh, the ball has fallen out of play into the crowd, wholly out of bounds. The crowd throws the ball in. It goes flinging toward the big pile of people, of players in the field, in the middle of the field, far away from your ball carrier and all of his non tackled friends. It bounces amongst their heads time after time, scatter after scatter, and finally it lands dumbly in the arms of your opponent. Because this was a turnover, it's now their turn. They run uninterrupted, unimpeded into the end zone. You lose.
Ta-da!
Blood Bowl. And it is the greatest thing that GW makes, possibly, because Blood Bowl doesn't have any problems that it isn't wholly aware of. Does that make sense? It's so stupid. It's got it's got specialty dice. And it has this whole system of if we're even strength, you roll one. If I've got more than you, I roll two, I pick the result. If I've got less than you, I roll two, you pick the result. So it's got these ways that the math is moving. It even has if I have double strength than you from having help and other mechanics, you roll three of these specialty dice, and I get to pick the result. So you'd think guaranteed good result, right?
Mm-hmm.
Blood Bowl is such a game that you will sometimes roll three bad for you results in that scenario. And it is
Yeah.
shocking. It is so dumb. Uh, the way the ball just. There are so many instances where the ball randomly bounces. You can't count on anything. Sometimes the
Mm-hmm.
crowd will intervene and just mess up one of your guys. That's just a thing that can happen. Sometimes the ref can throw you out for doing what is statistically a very safe and consistent thing, right? And he's like, "Yeah,
Yeah.
that guy's out of the game. Sorry about it." Um, it's so stupid, and I love it because it just makes sense. And the reason it makes sense, we were discussing this the other day. I play the Elven Union team. I really like them. I've got them painted up like the New England Patriots. I got I got Elf Tom Brady in the back because it is a passing team, and we run a whole lot of end rounds and screen passes. And what's really cool about Blood Bowl is if you know anything about American football, those screen passes things work. Like the sort of misdirection actually work in the game. And we were discussing how can that be when it's this fairly simple thing played on a grid with these, with these weird dice and simple rules of just counting the squares that you move. And we realized that it's the nature of tackling because guys tackle one another.
Mm-hmm.
The very nature of the method to stop your opponent is to physically touch them causes all of the kind of uh, spacing and position of real world American football slash soccer slash rugby to function on the tabletop. And I don't think they did it on purpose. I think it's literally the nature of like if anybody has a rifle to stop the ball carrier, the whole game stops working. You see,
Yeah.
because then everybody just needs guns, and then you
Mm-hmm.
end up with a regular skirmish game, and the ball kind of doesn't matter. Um, but it's great. And so we've got new Blood Bowl Season 3 is out. The Season 3 box set comes with everything you need to play, and it's got your core rulebook. It's got two teams, the Tomb Kings, who are the Skelly Boys, and the Bretonnians, who are big hatted knights. And they're all brand new kits. They look beautiful. I've watched some unboxings. You get full color instructions on how to build them. You get a number of different head options and little gubbins that you can have everybody look a little bit different, even though both teams are two identical sprues, which is very nice. Um, you get a brand new sprue. So now we're into new stuff. You get a new sprue of status markers, which you can punch out, well, cut out because they are plastic, um, and color code them per the rule book. Because used to, if old heads that played old Blood Bowl, you had a knocked down and stunned, and you would lay a guy on their back for knocked down, and you would lay a guy on his face for stunned. And the problem is, especially with the newer GW kits, they're in all these athletic open poses, and you can't really tell when you lay them down if they're on their back or on their front. Not to mention some the scale creep is here for Blood Bowl 2. If you lay them down, all of a sudden they cover not one square but one and a half or two squares. So now where was that guy? You see, there were all kinds of
Yeah.
problems with this. Now we don't have that anymore. Now we slide our little marker in, and uh, they've changed a couple of rules. Some big ones that they've changed is now when a player has lost their tackle zone, rather than have them knocked down or by some other means having lost their tackle zone but not knocked down, keyword distracted. you put the distracted token on him. And it's
Hmm.
that way throughout the whole instruction book. They've gone and they've done what we talk about and what we hope for 11th edition 40K, which is don't start over, clean up the last one, because by and large, the last one was awesome. If you've played Blood Bowl before, nothing's going to be shocking to you. If you haven't played Blood Bowl, it's far and away the most easily consumable rulebook that they've done. It's all been streamlined. A lot of the fat has been cut out of the wording in lieu of some more sensible keywords, which keywords sound scary, makes you think of things like um, all the standard keywords in 40K, sort of weapon keywords, assault, torrent, yada yada.
Hmm.
It's kind of always been this way on Blood Bowl because everybody has a skill. So on your cheat sheet, you've got a lot of the common skills. In the middle of the book, the hardback, full color, illustrated book, you've got all the skills. They're easy to reference, they're easy to remember because typically you'll have a team where everybody on the team has one or two skills. So you don't
Yeah.
actually have to reference very much. It's just great. It's easy to pick up and play. Um, it is best done with a bit of a clock because I've played some games with Blood Bowl where it's very fast, where the
Mm.
guys, because it's I go you go, and you go until you fail a roll or score, or move everybody and pass. Do everything you can possibly do and then pass. And you play with some people who are like um, prospectively counting out where they're going to move a guy, and they'll count out 7 or 8 times to decide what they're going to do. And it's like, okay, buddy, you need to get this turn done in like 5 minutes, please. Like, if you don't have to
Hmm.
if all you're doing is moving stuff around, like, come on, let's go. It's supposed to be the bang bang of sports, um, but it's always good fun. More things that have changed. They've changed the team rosters. By the way, the new book is much larger than the old book because a bunch of new teams looking at you, gnomes. Austin, you've got the gnome team. They're
Yep.
all in the core rulebook now. So you don't have to go seek these other teams out in the Spike magazine or online or wherever it is you get your rules from for Blood Bowl. They're all in the book and all the roster constructions in the book. So you buy one book, if you already have all the if you already have the pitch, if you already have some teams, you're going to buy this core rulebook, you'll have everything. You can get rid of your various reference material that you have for your newer teams because it's all in the book. And they've changed the roster construction. Used to, if you wanted to play some teams, you'd have to have multiple boxes of that team. It's a little bit
Yeah.
like a Kriegsman per kill team, where you can play just the one box, but really the way people do it is they buy 2 boxes and take a whole bunch of dudes because more bodies is better. Um, there were a number of teams in Blood Bowl that was the case, but in the new roster construction, they've done away with that.
I want to touch on that.
Go ahead.
I just want to say this is how I feel like the game should always have been played. You buy your box and that's your team. I feel like that's
100%.
how how it should have been played instead of being like, well, here's a box of guys, but if you really want to play the meta of your team, you got to buy another box to get another thrower, so you have like however many throwers on your team or how many blitzers. I feel like this is a lot better and definitely a lot better entry point for new people getting into the game.
Well, it's like you say too. It sort of ties it a little closer on that spectrum of board game to miniature war game, where it's like buying a team as an expansion to a board game rather than a whole sort of gosh, what we call it, organic army constructing kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
Because last edition of Blood Bowl, and I don't know what first edition of Blood Bowl was. I imagine it was even more this way. Was a little bit like putting together a historical war game sort of force, where you'd have to go find a guy that would work as a guy and kit bash him a bit. It was a lot of that. Or you'd have to take the second box of your team and then get your kit bash hat on to make some guys this, that, or the other ancillary type units, right? Or players in this case. And you don't have to do any of that anymore. Now you buy the box, and the super weak spindly nothing dudes have had skills added to them and things so that they perform better, so that you don't feel like you need to have 2 dozen of them, or I exaggerate, but you don't have to do that anymore, which is great. Um, Austin, now I don't know what this means for you, because you when you play me against my elves, it that passing game goes hard. They've made passing easier,
Ooh,
but they've made it easier for everyone.
wow.
So
E
it
for everyone.
Yeah, so it could be that the elves are less good now relative to the field, because where they were leveraging some stuff that other people didn't have any access to, now everybody's got a little access to some fairly reasonable passing. Deflections are gone. So all that, put the
Oh,
template over the line and then roll multiple potential deflections that were never going to happen, right? Uh, you don't have to worry about them. Now you pick a guy that you think might could intercept the ball if you throw it over their head, and they have multiple penalties, and on a 6+ with those in the face of those penalties, uh, they can intercept it. Because they're rolling against their agility skill, yada yada yada. Otherwise, the ball just goes where the ball goes, but it works that way for everybody. So I think it's going to be neat, having the passing game be a little more viable for more teams, rather than you know some teams being a little bit one dimensional, I guess you could say, and then
yeah.
having them run into the buzz saw of something like a wood elf or a high elf team that is slinging the pill all around the pitch, and you end up in a shootout situation where you don't have any bullets, and that's not super fun. And now I think we're going to have more teams be able to at least have a fighting chance in a shootout.
Yeah, I always felt like in a non-elven team attempting the passing play, I always felt like me just like throwing the ball down the field and just essentially just throwing it down the field, and then I have to go pick it up because just the amount of steps you had to go through to make you even get there in a timely, seamless manner was so many hoops to jump through.
Yeah, it was a little bit of an arm punt, wasn't it? Because
Yeah,
you're going to throw it, it's going to miss, and now it's a I want to say then it's a turnover, and now you've got to try to get the ball after
yeah.
I finish a turn trying to get the ball. They've got a new thing in case you're worried about picking it up, by the way. They've got a secure ball action. That's a brand new rule. So all of you big guys with your agility of 4, who would spend turn after turn eating up clock just jumping on the ball only to have it squirt away from you, now you can declare this guy is going to secure the ball. And then on a 2+, he just gets to do that, regardless of his agility. So your big guy can walk over there as the last action of your turn and just get the ball and make sure he's got the ball. Because think about it, the 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 players that are going to want to use this, you're going to have a hard time getting the ball back away from them after that turn is complete.
Mhm.
So it's just a great thing that's been added. Again, it's going to give some of those teams that were less nimble a lot more tools in their arsenal to score, rather than try to bring the game down into the mud and just beat up the other team for the whole time. Because we we've seen that movie play out many times on the Blood Bowl field, where it's like, okay, you've injured half my team, but the score's 2-0. Good game.
Yeah.
Now I think we're going to see a little more scoring action, which I think is just going to be great, man. Um, so get in the comments and tell us: have you played Blood Bowl? Are you going to play Blood Bowl? I think this is the time to get in. Look, a new edition is always a great time to get in, whether uh, no matter what you've heard. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, there was some negativity about the new edition of Horus Heresy, but being that I've never played any Horus Heresy, I bet I would like the new one. Does that make you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, you're coming in fresh and just experiencing the new format that has been kind of, I don't want to say streamlined in a bad way, but kind of fixed up.
Well, and in this
You're
case
there.
too, and in this case too, I think with Blood Bowl, it's been streamlined in just I don't see any negative way, and I've also not seen any negative way that I've. I mean, I was doing some research even before we started this podcast. I was looking around to see what are the big changes, what do people think of them, and everybody seems to enjoy all the little changes that have been made, and the big ones all seem to just improve the whole thing. There are going to be some teams that used to be really good in various builds that are not going to be as good now because you can't do those builds. However, I think overall, for getting more people to play more games, this is all probably positive stuff.
Yeah, I I got two things that I'm trying to say at the moment. First thing is that I think this is a good starting point, especially the starter set. I think it's $150,
Is
like
that,
140, 145.
are you
That's
serious?
Yeah, it's only 145. That's an amazing deal if you want to get into the game with a friend. You don't even have to have a friend. You can just have this at your house and pull it out for people to come over and play because you get both teams and everything. I think this is an amazing deal. It's probably one of the best deals that Games Workshop has put out in a long time for a starter set. The other thing I want to touch on, you can touch on the starter set in a second, is I wonder if Old World is kind of the shot in the arm that kind of kicked off this Blood Bowl season 3 because we have the Bretonnians and the Tomb Kings in the starter set. So I
So,
wonder how much design, kind of cross design, went into this.
so a couple of things. One, I had no idea it was that cheap because that's crazy. That I figured, knowing nothing about the price of this stuff, I don't know what the last one cost. I figured it was going to be $300 just with the way that GW inflation happens, right? To discover that it's only 145, yeah, we might have to pick this up. Because here's the deal: the book is $60. When the book comes out, it'll be $60.
Yeah,
So between the book and the status sprue, right? The condition
yeah,
sprue, you're that's $100 in GW money. And then you've got two full teams. By the way, if you're not a hobbyist, those teams come printed in or molded in red plastic for the Bretonians and off-white bone-colored plastic for the Tomb Kings. You could just build them and leave them naked, glue them to their bases, and play the game. So if you're a board game person that doesn't mind your stuff looking like crap, that's totally fine. Um, yeah, and then what was your second point? I had a quick comment on that before we close.
uh, has Old World had an impact on the development of this game?
Okay, I understand that the lore of Blood Bowl says that it's in an alternate universe. However, I choose to have my headcanon of Warhammer all be in one timeline. So, in my brain, there is the old world in Warhammer Fantasy, and that's a thing. And over in a town far away, there are Blood Bowl teams that play Blood Bowl. And when you and me are playing our Warhammer, our Total War Warhammer, and the vampires are over there and the Bretonnians are over there, I believe that they all get together and get some guys and say, all right, truce, you guys are getting sent to play Blood Bowl. Just like when, we had to go play the Olympics in Munich and in Sochi and all this stuff, right? It's like, we're going to go do this. Everybody be cool.
Yeah,
That's my headcanon. And then, 100,000 years in the future, 40K happens, same timeline, and then the universe ends and Age of Sigmar happens. And get in the comments and tell me how wrong I am. But look, the Bretonnians and Tomb Kings came in the Old World starter boxes. The Bretonnians and the Tomb Kings are happening in the Blood Bowl starter box. You tell me what makes more sense.
I think
I
I
love.
don't.
Here's the other thing: as Old World players, check this out. How much do you love the idea that you and me can play elves versus dwarves in Old World, have that fight, and then my elven prince, after getting his ass whooped again, can say, oh yeah, well, we're taking you out this weekend on the Blood Bowl pitch. and then we
Certainly
rock up and
something.
play elves versus dwarves on the Blood Bowl pitch. It's just beautiful. It's beautiful.
Yeah,
Get in the comments and tell us what you think about Blood Bowl. Are you excited? I'm really excited. I can't believe that price point. You broke news to
yeah,
me.
yeah, certainly something. And even if you buy the book and a team, that you still are breaking out even more on the just buying the starter set. There's no
That
reason not to just buy the starter set.
that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Even if Tomb Kings aren't for you, like I mean, your mom will play them. Your
Sell them.
your mom. All right. That's all we got. Until next time, don't forget to
Stay fanatical.